Hello, I'm David Carlisle. I want to welcome you to our weekly MyGuy blog. It's a video blog this week, a little bit longer than normal. What I'm trying to do is bring together a lot of the stories I've been telling over the past couple of weeks and answer the critical question is, why bother? Why should you bother to change? What's in it for you? So you'll see some familiar data and information, but you may come to an unfamiliar, interesting conclusion. So if you've got about 10 or 15 minutes, I'd love if you could share it with me and we can take this journey together. Thank you so much. Well, I think anyone who knows me knows I'm in love with data and I'm in love with more specifically satisfaction data. These two charts here come from our 2013-2012 North American Consumer Sentiment Survey, showing satisfaction with maintenance versus repair parts. You can see the different dates. The dark green is what really interests me. That's those who emerged from their service experience very satisfied. I mostly want to focus on there because I think those are the customers that we need to be most focused on. The ones who have a great service experience versus a good or an indifferent service experience. Because you'll see that I'm going to make the point later on that a great service experience is your ticket to building a customer for life. Now on the maintenance side, we can see that there was an increase of top box satisfaction from year to year, that's on the left, of 7 points. We think that's because of from a recovering economy, climbing out of the doldrums of 2009, fatter pocketbooks, and less dissatisfaction with the cost involved in maintaining vehicles. On the right side, you see a decline, though, on the repair side. That's where there's more parts being used in a service experience. The independents are also included in these overall numbers. And we think that the decline there is pretty much due to as a consequence of cheap white box parts being used by the independents, causing some real disruptions to the service customer as well as to the service provider, just as a consequence of lower quality and inadequate service and parts warranty coverages. So this kind of is the lay of the land. Let's move on. Now, the big question is how we get them happy. This is probably my favorite chart, and it links together service repurchase likelihood to service satisfaction. The bars, I've described this before, but the bars represent service customers who emerge from a service customer. This is just for the dealers, either very satisfied, satisfied, or something else. The colors, the shadings of the bars represent those who are very likely to repurchase service, somewhat likely, neutral, and again going on to the very unlikelies. Now we can see that the difference between the satisfieds and the very satisfieds on the very likely to repurchase is pretty significant. We get an uptick of about 27%. That's pretty huge. So therefore, moving someone from a good service experience to a great service experience has a pretty significant impact on their likelihood to come back to buy more service from you. That's pretty interesting. And we've seen this on the vehicle side of the business. We've seen it year over year over year. But it's really the power of moving your customers from a good experience to a great experience. Now, when we look at service satisfaction, we're looking at it ungamed. Unfortunately, many of the service satisfaction scores and systems done by the OEs are actively gamed. Dealer service managers understand the game. They play it well. They know how it works. This was posted very recently from LinkedIn. It was from basically a automotive fixed operations manager group, and you can see that the guy who has the picture there in the middle said, hey, it takes all forms, from outright fraud in the form of suppressing surveys by changing phone numbers or other customer information to begging for high scores. We know that takes place. There was later on the forum was someone else saying, hey, the focus should really be more about the processes that we ask our customers to follow. So there's some acknowledgement that the surveys are flawed and gamed, and acknowledgement that, boy, maybe we should do some things differently. I'm on the camp we should do some things differently. Make no mistake that our very happy service customers are created by your service advisors. You've seen this chart before if you've followed the blogs, and the bars going from left to right are basically groups of folks arranged by overall satisfaction with their service advisor. The one on the far left, they were very satisfied with their service advisor. Two, very dissatisfied. Again, the different colors reflect overall satisfaction with the recent service. And what you can see here is that there's a huge correlation of service satisfaction with overall satisfaction with the service advisor. If I have a great service advisor experience, I'm going to emerge from my service event very satisfied. So that's the person at the pivot point who's making it all happen. Now, the problem we have in our industry is with what I call service switchers, folks that come into the dealership and then switch out. They leave us. They go to other dealers or they go outside the dealers. But I'm going to talk about, kind of quantify that right now. From our surveys, we found that about 24% of dealer customers switch to another dealer or to a chain or independent repair facility, IRF. Okay? 79% of these dealer switchers actually leave the dealer channel altogether. So a lot of those switchers just go. They leave. They're not going to another dealer. They're going to go to an independent or to a chain. Now, the reason we still have business is that many of these dealer switchers are replaced by service customers switching in from the independents and chains. Okay, so we kind of are at an equilibrium point to a certain extent. I'd say that we are less than at an equilibrium point because overall in the industry, our service market share is in the 30 to 40%. So over time, we've been losing more customers than bringing in. But this is kind of the dynamics of what happens. The big question is, what can we do about all that? Okay, what can we do differently? And I'm going to talk about that for just a little bit. Again, you've seen this before. What we can do differently is give customers what they really want. Okay, and then this is a chart that shows the top of what the customers value the most to value the least. Let's just focus on the top 5. Number 1, they want the vehicle available promptly at the time that it was estimated. Number 2, they want to be informed of the total cost up front. Number 3, they want it fixed right the first time. Number 4, they want to be charged a reasonable hourly labor rate. Number 5, they want you to have a great reputation with other customers. This is the same picture from brand to brand to brand across time, service, repair. It's always pretty much the same lineup. So let's just focus on those top 5. In fact, let's just focus on the top 1. They want their vehicle available promptly whenever it was the time it was estimated. Let's just see how that holds up inside the dealership. This chart is from a survey of about 11,000 dealer service technicians. When we asked them, what's the most useful information you have to service a vehicle? And they kind of ranked these things we asked. And number 1 was when is the condition typically present? 2, specific symptoms. Is the condition present at this time? Previous repair history. And you can see kind of those tiny little bars there when the customer expects the vehicle to be completed. So the number 1 thing that our service customer wants shows as a distant 5 for what it's useful to the technician. By the way, there's really good reasons for this. It's basically due to, and we've been talking about this within the industry, a lot of it's due to we typically service advisors may actually stipulate that everything's a rush job, everything is the highest possible priority. And when everything is the highest priority, everything's a rush, everything's an emergency, that means nothing's an emergency. And so that's kind of what happens. Now, when we ask the techs, what are the top improvement areas to enable a quality repair, the number 1 thing on their list was better coordination between the technician and the service advisor. This is pretty interesting, and it kind of shows me that there's hope here, after all. We know what the customers want most. We know that it's fifth on the list of the technicians, but we also know that the technicians realize that there's something wrong. Okay, they need to fix this. They need to have better coordination between themselves and the service advisors. So maybe there's a fix here. So why bother? Let's just talk about maybe it's worth the bother if you get a 5% boost in service retention. And I think it's doable. Let me kind of just go through some simple little pictures on this one. 56% of dealer service customers were very satisfied with their last service, and only 4 of those switched out of the dealer channel. Okay, so you can see they're pretty happy, and very few switch out. We'd like no one to switch out, but there's always reasons for it. Okay, so it's a pretty nice looking chart. Now, if you move to just the merely satisfied, so the ones that just got a good experience, okay, 35% of them were merely satisfied, and 10% of those switched out of the dealer channel. So you can see there's a lot more red proportionate in that of the switchers than in the other chart. So what if we did something different? What if we can shift 5% of the service customers from satisfied to very satisfied, okay, from good to great? Then one of those 19 switchers will actually stay back in the dealer channel, which represents a 5% improvement in service retention. Now, having to plan for increasing our very satisfieds by 5% coming from the satisfieds, I think is a reasonable goal. Okay, we know what the customers want. Okay, we kind of know what some of the things that are breaking down within the dealership that's preventing it from happening. But if we just move 5 of those people from satisfied to very satisfied, we improve our service retention by 5%. That's worth the bother. Thank you so much. See you next week.